Hello, everyone. We have Mario Rosa with Mi Familia, ATM operator in Texas, El Paso, I believe. Number of ATMs deployed, 600 TIDs out in the street. Cash dispensed monthly, $5.8 million. That's a lot of cash for 600 transactions. So it's very high hitters there. Years in the industry, 7 years. And we have customer retention satisfaction. Well, how old is your oldest terminal? 7 years. So since you got started, that terminal is still there. Mario,
hmm
tell me something about yourself and how you got started.
with me, ultimately, it kind of just started as an idea, right? So I used to work. I used to work at a trucking company, and every Friday the drivers would be trying to get cash out, and that's kind of how it kind of started organically. They'd be going out on their loads, and they wanted to get out and have their money. Payday was Friday, and they would basically be at the terminal and kind of like, hey, well, it'd be cool if we had one here, and that kind of got the ball kind of started in my mind. And I was like, I thought only banks could own it. That's kind of how my research started. Started looking into it, and then eventually, started kind of running it by the wife, and got the same kind of, the same answers that, are you sure? Like ATMs, cash, cash is dying. I mean, I don't know. We kind of got that kind of idea. And that's essentially what happened. We started doing some research. I ended up with Pernetta. That was my first processing company, and they kind of walked us through everything, kind of got the ball rolling. Very easy, very smooth. And then I just saw like, oh wow, I could scale this. So that terminal, first month we did 75 transactions, and we were like mid month. It was like one of those like, wow, that was cool. And so I had a recording, right? We had a camera there, and I'd be watching it. I'd be telling my wife like, we're in bed, we're laying down, and I'd be like, look, 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 someone's gonna use it. Someone's using it right now. That was just cool.
Where's the
Like it was
privacy there, Mario? Where's the
well,
privacy?
it wasn't over the pin pad, right? It wasn't, but just the general area because I was also scared. It was also my first outdoor machine too. We had a covered walkway, we had security, so it was really safe. It wasn't too sketchy, but it was really cool. Just kind of that mindset where it flipped, where you could literally be at home or asleep, and it was like money was coming in. And then I kind of talked to my boss, and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna if you got more terminals, we're ready for another location." And he set me up with the second location there in the second, yard that we had. And we had 400 drivers. So he's like, I want you to do good, but I don't want you to do too good, right? Like, we still want you to,
I don't want you
be
to
my
leave.
employee.
I want
So
you to stay here.
it kind of how it started. I told him, hey, no, we'll keep up with it. Kind of kept going, slow and steady, slow and steady. It took me, it took me 7 years basically to get, where I'm at now. Nothing quick, nothing fast. We didn't come from deep pockets. It was just kind of grinding it out. Hey, I'm gonna go fill during lunch. I'm gonna go towards the bank, just like a side hustle mostly, right? And now we're kind of at that point where it's making sense. Where hey, it can kind of replace everything, and that's exciting.
And that's I think that's the point that I wanted to bring out. Mario, you do this as a side hustle, correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And
So
you are at a point right now that you are considering to go full time or just keep rolling both.
that's correct. Yes, sir. Yeah. So coming as a W-2 employee, we love the insurance. That's kind of the safety net, right? And that's where I'm like, well, I mean, now I can afford it. I can pay for the insurance if we really needed to. But it's exciting. It's exciting to have that opportunity, man, because we've never had that before.
That's excellent. And there's you do placement and you help others get started. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir. So we at one point my portfolio was 16 machines. I've scaled it back a little bit just because it is kind of hectic to be running around all the time, and we trim the fat. We deploy stuff out there before we go out and buy a new machine. We kind of look at numbers and see what things are projected. If it's too slow, we'll say, you know what, let's move that one instead of buying a new one. And so since then we've come down a little bit. Now I'm at 8 machines, but they're all cash only. That's kind of what we're chasing now. So we did sell some hardware. Got lots of operators in the area. We kind of network, and it's been working out really well. But that's what I focus on now. Is I'm looking for spots that are truly going to be cash only. The heavy hitters.
That's just from one side of your business, and then you have the
hmm
other side, the
Yes,
side
sir.
that you help others get started and you
hmm
do processing for a lot.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So we have about, I guess I want to say about 150 people within our organization that we've helped out. Kind of nationwide. We've got them in Hawaii, California, New York, Denver, Colorado, Oklahoma. We've been in pretty much everywhere, even Florida. So coast to
That's
coast,
excellent.
Mhm.
So are people finding you, or are you going after them?
So people do find me. I think that's kind of how I first started. I started as kind of the techie guy. That's my background, and I was just intrigued by it. It was like, my dad always told me when you're young, he's like, you're gonna find a way, and the computer's gonna make you money, right? And in many ways, I guess I kind of treat that ATM like it is a computer. Like, hey, if it's gonna give you problems, and they all are gonna give you problems at one point, it's just basic troubleshooting and get it going. Most everything you can do with the screwdriver. That's kind of how we started. Just kind of teaching. I started giving out free help. So I was always on the Facebook groups of like, hey, let me show you how to do this. Let me show you how to do that. And I think there's some videos out there still on YouTube, and that's how people are like, hey, I know this guy, like he helped me with the card reader, he helped me with the battery, he helped me, with whatever. It's just kind of giving that free knowledge, and then eventually people find me like, hey, like you've been around for a while, let me pick your brain, and that's kind of how we start talking.
That's excellent, Mario. What do you consider the most successful placement that you have had so far, either with a machine that you place or with a partnership with somebody?
So I'm very fond of barbershops. I have a good high school friend, right, and he was a barber. He lives 40 miles from me, but I maintain that ATM just because, like, he's taken care of me since I was a kid. We knew him since kindergarten. And, speaking on your high withdrawals, you make the most money when they take the least amount of money out, right? Like, that's when it really starts to turn. And I guess that's why I'm a big fan of barbershops. He is cash only. He's got 5 chairs, and, it does very well. And then the average withdrawal is, $40 to $60. It's very, light compared to somebody pulling out, 300, 400. And, I just really, it's about the relationships. And, that's my buddy. He's got me placements before. He always pitches my credit card processing. He helps me out. I help him out too. He's landed me a couple accounts for the credit card processing too, and we share him. We share some of that profit with him just to say thank you.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So if I'm listening very well, you place machines, you provide processing, and you offer processing for credit cards as well.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we do a little bit of everything.
That's excellent. Um, just to clarify too, on the point, if you're dispensing that dollar amount a month, if you do percentages, that's actually a very good a charge per percentage. That's a very good dollar amount to be withdrawn because, of
Yes.
course, that's a different part of the business. That I am more of the flat fee, but there's a lot of operators that do percentages, and that
hmm
could be very healthy if you're dispensing that much money.
Yes, sir. We
Just
we
want
do
to
do that.
clarify it.
Yes, sir. And we do advocate for that, especially tattoo shops. Because everybody wants that. I want to take out $1,000, and it's like, well, we don't mind doing it, but 1.25 at the minimum. Maybe 2%. If we can get away with it, we always try to do the two.
Yeah. When somebody's looking for you, or when somebody finds you in the internet and says,
hmm
"Mario, I want to get started," what is your approach for them to get started?
Ultimately, I guess it's kind of tougher, right? Whenever it's a stranger on the internet, because that's what it's like. Yeah, it's a scam. So a lot of times
We're
we're
seeing
just a
that.
person. Yeah, we're just a person first, right? So I talk to them just like if they were my buddy, and I'll tell them, hey, let's have a call. Let's see if I'm a good fit for you. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. Yes, there's bigger fish out there, but I'm available. You know what I mean? That's kind of my big sell, is that I am available. I have the techie experience. We even do repairs out there for ATM geeks as well. They contract us kind of within our area. We get it done, but more so, it's more about the relationship. If they get a good vibe from me, then we kind of continue. Um, we do everything DocuSign. Everything's very robust. It's not very homegrown. It doesn't feel like a small company, right? When they work with me, it's just that now I'm available. And then we also do video calls just like this. So we like to teach them, programming. We don't charge them to help them. It's just a video call. Of course they could follow the guides, they could follow the videos if they'd like to, but a lot of it is just that one-on-one, face to face with me.
That's excellent. What for people that wants to get started, or that people that had gotten started with you, what are some misconceptions that they have
I
about the
think some
ATM
of it
business?
is credit. A lot of them think they got to have good credit to kind of get everything started. That's one. And And really, it's just like, well, no, but it does take capital. That's the hard part for some people looking to start. Um, we coach them as best we can, and sometimes they're not ready for it yet. And so we'll be honest with them too, and say, you know what, let's line things up. Once everything's kind of aligned and you've got a little bit more capital to work with. You don't want to go to a spot where you were barely going to make it, and then it goes empty Friday night, and they're calling you, Friday night, Saturday morning, Sunday, hey, where are you? Where are you? The deposit's not going to hit till Monday. So like, there's no sense in you getting a killer spot if it's going to hurt your business. Like ultimately, that's what we tell people too.
That's like the hard part because I see it as an extension to my brand when I
Mm-hmm.
do processing for somebody else, and of course, some of those they don't have my sticker or my marketing, but
Mm-hmm.
I see it as my reputation when I create a TID that I don't want that TID to be empty
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah. Yeah. The
it's not
uptime
what we
really hurts. Yep.
yeah, we don't get measured that way. We don't get better pricing that way, but we
Mm-hmm.
just want our TIDs to be performing. That's what they're
Mm-hmm.
meant for.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes we'll tell them that. I mean, it's just easier to be honest with somebody. That way they feel in a better place. Like, yes, we could make the sale. Yes, we could sell the machine, but if it's gonna hurt their business, it's only gonna just hurt their reputation, like you said.
So, for the people that looks at this as a side hustle, what do they have to keep in mind?
Um.
I was one of those. I was one of
So
those 10 years ago. I actually just celebrated 10 years ago,
nice, man.
a couple of days ago, that I it was a
Congrats.
side hustle for me.
So for
But
me, I always
what do we look?
I always hated the word passive. That was the word that was sold in our industry. It's so passive, and that's what I tell people first. Number one is that it's flexible, right? Yes, you may only
Flexible. I like
work
that word better.
5 hours a week, but you don't know when those 5 hours are gonna be. It could be like, the machine's projected it should make it till Friday, but they're calling you on Wednesday. We had a busy night. There was an event and we forgot to tell you about it. So you'll have to get up and run. You know, try to do something during your lunch hour exactly. But that kind of setup is there. Is I'll tell them it's very flexible. Like, yeah, it may be only about 5 hours, but you won't know when those 5 hours are gonna be. And so, I'll be late to dinner here and there because, hey, I got to go fill the bar. I got to get it ready for the weekend. Um, there's some tricks around that, right? So, like, I get real good with my owners. Usually I end up with a key for those kind of locations because it's rough to be filling at 10 p.m. at night when you got a
Oh
family.
no, you don't want to do that. It's
Yeah.
safety. Safety's done.
Safety number one. But then the
Yeah.
wife is like, hey, you got to be back. I don't want you
No,
in the
that's safety
club.
too. You don't want to get killed. You don't want to get you don't want to kill when you get back.
Yeah. So, we do kind of mix it up. We go different hours, etc. If you got a different car, swap the car. There's some things that we do for caution for sure, but just having a key makes it easier because now I can fill it on my schedule. I'm not waiting on somebody to show up at 9 o'clock at night to go open for me.
Let me see what I have here. What's the biggest challenge for somebody doing this, doing a 9 to 4 and or 9 to 5, and then the bank might not even be open?
Yeah, so it takes grit, man. It's not easy. That's kind of how we've got it. I mean, I've got a couple debit cards, so if I have to in a pinch, I'll pull from the ATM itself. Luckily,
Just
my
one from
bank
Peter
closes
to
at
Paul.
5:30. Yeah, so it'll get me by. But my bank they're open at 9 o'clock and they close at 5:30, and then on Saturdays they go by 1. And then now at this point, we've kind of got a routine and we've got a scale where, hey, we order Monday, it's ready by Tuesday, etc. So I mean, it's easier now, but when we were first starting, it was rough. I mean, it's hard, man. It's you got to have that grit. You got to see that it's worth it. It'll pay off, and the right location will change your mind, right? I
Yeah,
got some people
yeah,
that start and they're like, "Oh man, it's too slow," but then we help them look for something, we find something else, and they're like, "Oh wow, like this is a big difference." And it's like, yeah, it's all about the location, 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 just like the realtor says.
yes. A couple more questions here before we
Mm-hmm.
wrap it up. What
Mm-hmm.
has been your biggest challenge in scaling your ATM business?
Capital. That's the
Capital.
hard part. Capital.
Oh,
Capital
oh,
is
Mario,
tough.
now you're going to be calling me, buddy. I don't have deep pockets, but you call me and we'll take care of that.
Oh man, yeah, no. I think that's kind of what helped us too. Uh, how I grew a little bit faster, right? At one point, I picked up, I think it was 5 machines from a guy selling in storage, and he wanted $1,000 for all of them. Uh, 2015s, 2016 Halo 2s, and we bought them, right? And we weren't ready. We weren't ready. So from the five, it was just too good of a deal to pass up. I think we ended up making three work, which was still, I mean, a steal of a deal for three for 1,000. But then my wife was like, "Hey, you can't have him in the house. Like, you gotta get him out there." And that's where I feel for the
Those are
operator. That's
soldiers,
like,
buddy. Those are soldiers. Those have to be in the street.
yeah. So that's
We
where I
can't be
feel
looking at them.
for that operator, that it's like, oh man, like we weren't quite ready, but we had to deploy him anyways. And I got those calls Friday night. Hey, I'm running empty. Where are you? And it was rough. So that's how I learned. I was like, okay, we're gonna just pull them back, and we'll redeploy later if we had to. We'd sell them. You can figure out ways. You get creative. Um, what ended up helping me is we ended up doing a home equity line of credit, and that saved my butt. That just made me like, okay, cool, and the money's worth it. It's paying everything easy. It's scaling now. Um, we can scale now easier. We got a little bit more capital, but now it's more time, and that's where it was comfortable enough for about 12 machines. At 16, I was kind of like, okay, this is rough, and then we started vaulting for somebody, so we were also managing up to 25 of our own, and that was crazy while still working. And we have baseball, so my kid's in travel ball too, so it gets a little
There you
crazy.
go. There you go. Because you still have to put your hat for a dad
Hmm.
as well.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Yeah.
there's multiple ways to help that way, and of course, one of those is going to the bank multiple times for
Hmm.
cash flow. But the problem becomes when Saturday hits, when Sunday hits, that
Hmm.
the bank is not
Yeah.
available. Your ACH didn't show up,
Yes, sir.
so
Yeah.
uh,
Luckily, with our bank, we do get the push on Saturday, so that makes life easier. You know,
yeah.
it's not everybody gets it, and they're lucky. We're lucky that we're able to get that.
Um, are there any tools or systems that you use to keep your company running more efficiently?
So I guess I automate a lot of reports. I primarily
Good.
use Switch Commerce, and I love that I can automate because it has some built-in projection, in it. But lately, I've been dabbling in ChatGPT and Claude, and I'm kind of using it to analyze my reports. It's better than me. It's better than I'll ever be probably, and
Yeah.
it's done very well as far as kind of trimming the fat and moving numbers around. It's kind of helped me a lot. So that's something
That's
that I do. We do track our mileage. We use Stride just because you have to do that for tax purposes. Um, I haven't really got into route planning because all my routes pretty close. I'd say I'm within 30 to 40 minutes most of my machines. So
and for
I
Texas, that's
just,
not bad.
yeah, for Texas it's not bad. We're more rural, so where I'm at, I'm from McAllen, Texas. There's more empty road here, so I mean you can go a little bit quicker, but we try to be careful. Be careful, of course.
I think I know the answer because you mentioned this before, but I want you to tell it out loud to all of us.
Hmm.
What role does customer service play in a successful business?
Oh, I think that's number one, right? I mean, I don't always think that the customer's always right, but they're very important, right? Sometimes we may have to guide them, like, hey, well, this would be better, right, for your situation. Uh, but it's key. I think just being a person and just being relatable, it's key in business. You know, there's been many times where I get a call and somebody's like, "Hey, can you move the ATM? We're gonna redo the floor today." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. When did you know about this?" "Oh, it was 2 weeks ago. I forgot to call you." It's like, "I'll be
Of
right
course,
over."
of
That always
course.
happens. Uh, that's one of those things that has happened. And sometimes you just kind of freak out. Like, man, there's some people that have no business in business, but they're running it. And
They're
if you
still
do
there.
it
They're still there.
well, you'll be okay. You know what I mean? People will find out if you can do things well, if you're honest, if you're trustworthy. The right people find their way. Is what I'll always say.
Yeah. What's one piece of advice you will give to a new operator? We're wrapping it up here with two more questions.
Okay. I
So
would say,
today there's a
yeah.
Mario in the US that just got his bank account and he's it's out there in the streets. What piece of advice would you give to that new operator?
So if he got the bank account, he's in. That's the hardest part. A lot of times, you know.
Well, let's go back before that. He just thought that he's going to get started.
Yeah, no, no, for sure. And I'll just tell him like it takes grit. Just being honest with them. It's not going to be like you're printing money. And I think that's what a lot of the owners of the businesses, establishments, they think that, oh, you own an ATM, you're printing money, like you've got it. And it's like, no, no, it's a side hustle. You know, we're trying to make it work. We're trying to build that traction. And that's what I'll tell them. It just takes grit. You know, you got to be able to put in the time. Like anything, right? Anything, you got to get good at it. You know, you'll get better at it for sure. But, you know, you're going to take some losses. We try to help you mitigate that, you know, by asking for the right questions and guiding you what we know. But sometimes you're going to take a loss, and that's okay. That's how you learn.
What does success mean to you beyond profits, and how do you use your platform to make a difference?
I think number one is just kind of being able to be there for your family. I think that's a big core value of mine.
Mario, I appreciate your time, and it's a lot of education on your on this conversation that we had. Thank you.